Oh, yeah. Five-star. LSU. I said, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up. Hey, 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 way down in the back.
TA, we are live, and Reagan will be with us in just a moment, so I had to do his classic introduction. But we have a lot for y'all tonight. Obviously, LSU basketball team will be tipping off here at 8 o'clock, so that's why we decided to go a little bit earlier, so obviously we could watch the game ourselves, and so you, the fans at home, could watch the game as well. So that's why we're going a little bit early tonight, but we've got a lot to talk about. Obviously, LSU took a humiliating loss to Alabama this past weekend, but there is some hope. There is some hope for you LSU fans, and I know that probably a lot of you don't want to hear it. Trust me, I didn't really want to hear it either, but there is a glimmer of hope for this year's LSU football team and potentially, not probable, but potentially making the college football playoffs. It is still in play, so we will discuss that with y'all tonight. We will also discuss the LSU Florida game coming up, obviously, this weekend. LSU set to kick off at 2:30 this Saturday versus the Florida Gators. Just got word that it looks like DJ Lagway is going to start for the Florida Gators. Per Billy Napier, Pete Thamel just reported it here recently. So if y'all want to fact check us, go check out X, go check out Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Pete Thamel just reported that it looks like DJ Lagway is expected to play. How much will he be? What percentage will he be at? How limited will he be against the Tigers on Saturday? And then obviously we'll also discuss the men's basketball team as they will tip off at 8 o'clock. Reagan is back with us. I think he had to go clean up a mess from one of his kids.
Yeah, I did. Not one I enjoyed. But I'm back.
I already did your classic intro. It's all good.
Thank you. All right. Looking forward to tonight's show. Obviously, lots of stuff. Brian has never won the game. False.
Ole Miss, Bama in 2022, overtime.
False. People will cling to anything that the media begins to push. And there's really no – has he lost big games?
What?
Yes. But to say he has never won a big game –
it's a stretch. It's just false, really.
I mean, he has won.
Is LSU Ole Miss in Baton Rouge, Ole Miss being a top 10 team, is that a big game, Reagan?
That's
just
twice.
Curious.
He's beaten a top 10 Ole Miss team
twice.
In Baton Rouge twice.
Beat Bama in overtime.
That's right.
Was that a big game?
Yep. There's been big games that he has certainly won. He won big games at Notre Dame too, Jeff. People just don't want to. They want to repeat what has been said. Anyways. With that being said, as crazy as it sounds, as bad as this past weekend was, I mean, I think we need to say this. It's fair to say Brian Kelly is and should be criticized, and there should be some skepticism for what happened last weekend.
Yeah.
It was inexcusable. It was unacceptable. It was his worst loss of his tenure at LSU by far.
Yeah, for sure.
By far, his worst performance as a coach, and you can say that and criticize him, but not also be part of what everybody wants to say all the time. It was a horrible coaching game. The fact that we were totally and completely unprepared for what hurt us, what lost us the game against Texas A&M, what cost us the game against Alabama last year was the legs of Jalen Milroe. And he scorched you again. It was all of the hype, Zach. Playoff implications. Everybody was calling it an elimination game, which, by the way,
it wasn't.
Really wasn't an elimination game. Now, on this side of it, you look at the math. I mean, I thought it was an elimination game. I'm not going to sit here and say I thought it was. But with
it felt like it, yeah.
We're
in a new age of college football and a new age of the SEC.
That's right. You have an expanded playoffs, and the age of the SEC with no divisions, you still have a chance. That's not like a what's percentage wise. It's not highly unlikely for you to get into the SEC championship game and still put yourself in the playoff. Now, I would say you've been eliminated from an at-large bid.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You're eliminated from an at-large bid. But because of the automatic bid that the SEC championship now offers, and because the SEC has been beating up on each other the entire year, LSU still has a chance. And it's not a far-fetched chance either. And Zach, with that being said, though, that game and the expectations that surrounded it, College Game Day was there.
All kinds of recruits.
All of the recruits, which I don't think that's going to hurt you in a massive way like some people tend to think. I don't think it's good for you, but I don't think it's like a detriment to you. But the recruits, the hype, the playoff implications, Death Valley at night, and that's the performance. It was unacceptable, Zach.
Yeah, it was a poor product for sure, Reagan, and you got yourself in a spot where you were playing catch up the entire game, and you just couldn't quite catch up. I will say, yes, Garrett Nussmeier has made very poor decisions the last two games, but he's having to throw it half 100 times. I mean, he's having to throw it near 50 times a game because you can't run the football, and your defense obviously played so terrible in defending and containing Jalen Milroe. You had to play catch up. I mean, first drive and they go right down the field, score a touchdown, and automatically, just like that, you're down 7. And so, I mean, he ripped off a 39-yard touchdown run on the first drive. And from that point, you were like, oh boy, here we go. So extremely disappointing. And I do agree, Brian Kelly does deserve criticism and skepticism for what happened, because you did not have your team prepared. You did not have them prepared. They were ready for this game mentally, but they were not prepared as far as a coaching aspect is concerned. So extremely disappointing that this coaching staff and the entire country, all the fan base knew exactly what you had to do in order to, be able to compete in this game and to stop Jalen Milroe, and you just couldn't do it. Is that a coaching issue? Is that a personnel issue? I think it's a little bit of both. I think mostly it's probably a coaching issue than it is a personnel issue. Does the personnel play a factor? Yes, 100%. I think it plays a big factor, but ultimately it's on coaching. And we've seen LSU have success against running quarterbacks this year. So the fact that it was just they were so poorly prepared for it is disappointing. But the fact of the matter is, you got to move on. You got to move forward. It is what it is. It happened. It sucks, but you still have 3 games left to play. And as we will discuss, there is a likelihood that you could potentially make it into the SEC championship if a couple of things happen.
Yeah.
Right, Reagan? So obviously the big one is LSU's got to win out. LSU's got to win their next 3 games. There is no way around it, and
Zero room for
zero room for error. You have to win all 3 of these games. If you lose any 3 of these games, your shot at the college football playoff is completely at like 0% chance.
Yep.
Right now you have a small percentage. But there's there's really 2 things outside of LSU winning out that has to happen for LSU, and both of them aren't like unfathomable. Like both of them are pretty like, yeah, that could easily happen. So you are still in the hunt for an SEC championship appearance. And obviously if you win the SEC championship, you're a top 4 seed. So you're probably the 4 seed, but you'd be a top 4 seed. So LSU, while they don't control their own destiny entirely, they need to be able to win these 3 games and then hope that a little bit of magic happens in the SEC. Because as we'll lay out, Reagan, with there being a high likelihood that there's going to be multiple teams tied for second in the conference. Obviously the conference, the regular season conference champion looks like it's going to come down to the Texas A&M Texas game, and whoever wins that will automatically be in the SEC championship. So
if they win out,
if they win out. So who is going to be in after that? Well,
there's
a potential for, 6 teams to have
half
the conference to have a tie. Half the conference. And if that's the case, then it's going to come down to, if you have multiple teams that are tied for second in the conference, it's going to come down to cumulative conference record. And LSU stands in a really good position for that, Reagan, if it comes down to that.
Yeah, it does, because there's going to be, as you said, several teams that are probably going to finish at 6-2, and that would include potentially either A&M or Texas, depending on who wins or loses that game. And you would have 6-7 teams that would be 6-2 if Georgia beats Tennessee this weekend, which seems like it's very likely. Number one, it's in Athens. Number two, it does not look like Nico Ma'alayev is going to play this weekend. So I would expect Georgia is already a major favorite in the game because he's not expected to play. You expect Georgia to win at home when a starting quarterback is not playing for another team. So I coming off a loss like they did, I expect Kirby Smart to have their team ready to roll when they come to Athens. that would make Tennessee 6-2 as well. So it would be, I think, Ole Miss if they went out, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, Texas A&M or Texas, Alabama. So 6 teams, give or take, that would end up being 6-2. So you can't do head-to-head because they all don't play head-to-head. There is no common conference opponent, so you have to skip the next 2 criterias, right? There's not a common conference opponent between all of the teams. So you would have to skip that one. And then the ranked common conference opponent, same thing. You would have to skip that one. As Zach points out, it would go to the cumulative conference opponent winning percentage, which LSU is in the lead of the SEC by a pretty significant margin. LSU and Alabama conference opponents currently both have a winning percentage of .520. That's the best in the SEC between Alabama and LSU. So whoever wins, let's say that plays out, right? Everybody wins out, and so it comes down to Texas A&M Texas for the regular season conference. Whoever wins that, they're in the SEC championship, right? Then it would come down to that cumulative conference opponent. Well, LSU is above all of those teams, LSU and Alabama. So what you need to cheer for is, number one, for Georgia to win this weekend, so that Tennessee has a second SEC loss. Number 2, you need to cheer for teams that LSU has played against. You need teams you've played against to win. And you need teams that Alabama has played against to lose. That helps your percentage goes up and Alabama go down. So, essentially, Missouri and Arkansas play in the very last weekend of the season. Missouri played Alabama. They didn't play LSU. Arkansas played LSU. Arkansas did not play Alabama. It could come down to that game.
Yeah, Arkansas could literally hold your fate for LSU to make it into the SEC
Speaking
championship.
Look at Preston.
Yeah. Preston, I need your team to do us a favor and beat Missouri. I don't care what y'all do against Texas. And none of that really matters to me. I need y'all to beat Missouri, please.
Yes, just beat Missouri. So what you LSU fans need to cheer for, number 1, Georgia to win, and then just cheer for LSU's opponents to win. Cheer for your opponents to win. Now, if Alabama ends up dropping a game somewhere along the way, it doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter then. Your cumulative conference opponent would be the only one that would matter because LSU is in a wide margin lead in that percentage. So if LSU were to be 6-2 and win out, which again you have to win out, you would likely get that spot, and that's insane. That's insane to think of, and I don't think we need to take credit for this. We're not the first ones to say this. I've seen multiple people share this and the fact that this is a reality for LSU. So it's not a far-fetched that LSU can still get in the SEC championship and qualify if they win for an automatic bid for the college football playoffs. It's unbelievable, Zach. It really is. It is not a far-fetched. That is the reality of the SEC beating up on each other all year long.
I would say the most difficult thing. Let me ask you this, Reagan. Here's a good question for LSU fans to contemplate. I think out of those 3 things, the easiest thing that I see is Georgia beating Tennessee. Would you agree with that? Out of LSU going undefeated, Arkansas beating Missouri, and Georgia beating Tennessee, which one are you most confident in?
Right now, Georgia beating Tennessee.
Georgia beating Tennessee.
Because of
so the question is, which one are you second most confident? I'm with you. I think Georgia beating Tennessee, I'm most confident in. So the question is, which one are you second most confident in? LSU winning out or Arkansas beating Missouri? That's tough. I
don't know. Well, there's one that's more important. I mean, you have to win out. That's the more important thing.
But which one are you most confident in? That's not the question. Obviously, LSU winning out is the more important thing.
I'm more confident, I think, in Arkansas beating Missouri than LSU winning out.
Okay.
I mean,
that's one game. LSU has 3 games left.
Yeah, I mean, look, there was a point in the season where, look, we're not a great team, okay? I think we're a good team that's flawed.
Yeah.
We're not a great team. I think everybody knows that now. Like, that's just a reality I think we need to accept. You're not a great team. You're a good team that is flawed, that at times when you're playing at your best can be really good, right? You made mistakes against Ole Miss, critical mistakes against Ole Miss, but Garrett Nussmeier gave you his best when his best was needed.
Yeah.
And he pulled it through, right? He looked really, really good through the first half of this season. Really good. He looked good in the loss against USC. He looked great against them.
Yeah.
Right now, we're always captive of the moment, I think. You've had 2 really heartbreaking losses. I think Nussmeier has gotten in his head a little bit, began to force things, began to do things that he normally wouldn't do because it's almost like you were saying, we're playing from behind. He feels there's a necessity that he has to make something happen, right? And so he's made some mistakes. Now, I'm going to give him a break on 2 of his turnovers against the Alabama game. I know people aren't going to like that or agree with that. But, folks, you can't let a linebacker from the University of Alabama trot through your offensive line.
Nobody touched him.
Wide, stinking open. You can't allow that to happen. Because you know what's going to happen? He's going to hit your quarterback. Now, does Garrett Nussmeier need to secure the ball better? Sure, probably so. But the reality is you can't allow that as an offensive line. DJ Chester, the young guy on the offensive line, maybe a miscommunication. Paul Mubinga is to his left. He was working towards the left. So, maybe if Garrett Dellinger is there, DJ Chester isn't so worried about Paul Mubinga, so he picks that block up. Or maybe Garrett Dellinger being there, the veteran guy, that communication doesn't get messed up and that block gets picked up, right? But you have 2 inexperienced young guys in the interior of that offensive line in that game. You have a miscommunication that looks like trots through, strip sack, right? So I'll give Garrett a pass on that one. I'm going to give him a pass on his interception at the beginning of the second half as well. I mean, that was really, really good stinking defense. And if you watch the film, you slow it down, guys, C.J. Daniels has a touchdown.
Yeah.
And that's why
the linebacker sunk with the inside route. And
when Garrett, if you slow the film down, as Garrett is beginning to release the ball, that linebacker is in front of the receiver crossing the middle of the field. It looks wide open. But he drops back behind that receiver as Garrett begins to release his throw, and he picks it off. It was just good defense, man. The touchdown was open. CJ had beat his guy, and he was open in the end zone, and it was going to be a touchdown. He dropped back. And anybody who thinks they can say, well, he should have been experienced enough to look all like, you go do that. Like, it looks like that receiver crossing the middle of the field with that linebacker has completely taken him out of the coverage. And then he drops back in, like in a moment of time, and takes that ball. That is more of a defensive play than it is a mental lapse from Garrett Nussmeier. Because that was a really stinking good play by that linebacker.
That's when it felt like the wind just got knocked out of you.
It did feel like the wind got knocked out of you there. And then after that, the strip sack happened. Anyways, it was a bad loss. But as we're talking about here already, you still have a chance. You have to go win these games. Garrett Nussmeier needs to be the Garrett Nussmeier at the beginning of this season. He needs to tune out all of the garbage that people are spilling about him, right? Because, guys, Zach, I don't know if you've seen this or not. Garrett Nussmeier is not being replaced. Like, that is –
yeah, that's pretty wild.
Tell me you don't understand football without telling me you don't understand football. That's what you're telling me. Do you really think Ricky Collins is going to come in here and lead you to 3 straight victories at Florida, against Vandy, against Oklahoma? I'm taking Garrett Nussmeier. Let's not be crazy here. You really think 17-year-old Colin Hurley is going to come in and do it? Like, let's use our brain here. Let's not be a bunch of brainless, mindless. Like, that is so obnoxiously ignorant. I cannot even fathom it. The fact that Brian Kelly was asked that in a press conference, like, are we for real?
Yeah,
Are we
that's pretty
serious?
crazy.
Are we even serious right now? The dude, the man led the SEC in passing touchdowns going into the Alabama game. And if he has a good game this weekend, he probably will be back on the top again. Like, let's not be so stupid. He had 2 really bad games. You're allowed to be human, right? And make mistakes. But we know what he did earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Can he correct the mental errors?
It's not like this has been something that has been ongoing for the entire season.
We know this about Garrett. Like, there's going to be times when he throws interceptions. We know that about him. We understand that. But you're not going to go out there and win the SEC championship and put yourself back in the playoff with Ricky Collins or Colin Hurley at the helm of things. It's not going to happen. You've got to ride with Nuss. You got to get behind him. This fan base needs to get behind him and say, let's roll. You've got a chance, a slim chance, but you need to go make it happen. You got to correct it. So, with that being said, you do, according to the SEC tiebreakers, as crazy as it sounds, you do have a chance, to still get in the SEC championship and put yourself in. It's unbelievable.
That's crazy.
You're either out or you're top 4 seed. That's crazy. That's
crazy.
But that is the world that we're living in right now. It really is.
Yep. It
really is. So, with that being said, you have a big weekend ahead of you. You go to Gainesville. Zach, as we were just speaking of before the game, on 3, Pete Thamel, they've all announced that Billy Napier has announced that DJ Lagway will suit up and is expected to start this weekend in Gainesville against the LSU Tigers. And, of course, that is a big development for many reasons. Obviously, Zach, Graham Mertz started the year for Florida, the transfer from Wisconsin to second year at Florida. He got the nod over DJ Lagway, but obviously DJ Lagway was a highly touted freshman. Say what's up. Say, go Tigers. Go. Go. Yeah. So the show starting at 7:00 means we get Luca showings. Normally he's in bed when the show starts.
That's all right.
So, with that being said, it's a huge development that DJ Lagway is going to start. Graham Mertz obviously is out for the season with his injury. 2 weeks ago, Zach, in the Georgia game, DJ Lagway is carted off of the field with an apparent hamstring injury. And I'm about to back this computer up because he's trying to push buttons. So, I mean, you've got another mobile quarterback that you're going to have to deal with. Do you want Zach to say hello to you?
Hey, Luca.
That's what you wanted, wasn't it?
Hey, buddy. Look at him.
He was waiting for you to say something, Zach. That's what
he
it
was.
He's like,
Luca say, go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Go Tigers.
Luca, I need you to explain to me the SEC tiebreakers and how you think LSU can make it into the college football playoff.
What's your thoughts?
What's your thoughts?
Okay. Go. All right. So, Zach, obviously, huge development because you're going to have to deal with another quarterback who can move. So, Zach, what's your thoughts with DJ Lagway? I mean, how he's available, but how available is he? I think is my question.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, carted off the field 2 weeks ago. I don't know, what percentage he will be at. I would imagine he would be at closer to like 75% or something like that. But from what we heard, he's a competitor. His mom, I heard a podcast that where his mom pretty much stated that she didn't want him to go play, but she can't stop him from being a
Physical
competitor.
therapist, yeah.
Yeah, so um, you know how effective will he be? I don't know, Reagan. Is he going to be effective enough to go Jalen Milroe on you? I do not think so. So LSU still, I think, has to prepare for his run game. I mean, you absolutely have to do it, no matter what you think, no matter what how effective or what percentage you think he's at. Brian Kelly and this team absolutely has to prepare for him, and I hope they have, because we're just now getting word, and here it is, Thursday evening. We're almost to Friday. I pray that Brian Kelly has and the coaching staff has prepared their team for either or.
No doubt.
So LSU absolutely cannot allow even a semblance of what happened last week to happen in this Florida game. You have to be able to make them one-dimensional, and stop. And if you can do that, you have a really good shot at winning this game. Florida defensively is like the worst in the SEC. Like, this will be the worst defense you've played all season. So LSU should have success offensively as far as moving the ball and putting up points. LSU had success offensively against Bama. They just didn't put the points on the board.
Yeah.
You had an interception in the end zone to start the second half. That very first drive, you drove all the way down the field and had to settle for a field goal. You had to settle for a field goal twice. So, like, LSU drove the field a few times against Alabama, and could have definitely put up a lot more points than they did. So it's disappointing, obviously, that the offense has still had red zone issues. So I think that's a key point in this game, right? LSU absolutely has to be able to execute when they get inside the red zone. They have to be able to scheme offensively to be able to finish with touchdowns in the red zone. I would love to see more of Tradez Green in the red zone. I would love to see more of Mason Taylor just throughout the entire ball game. Seems like every time you go to him, he's going to catch the ball, and he's extremely clutch.
Absolutely.
But we just haven't seen. I feel like we haven't seen him featured enough. And also, you just got to get Caden Durham more touches. I mean, you absolutely have to. He needs to be near 15 to 20 touches a game. He shouldn't be under 15 touches a game, which is what we've seen. I mean, good grief, the second play from scrimmage, he busts it and goes 45 yards on LSU's first drive and gets you right there. And then he comes off the field and you don't see him hardly at all. I mean, he had a few handoffs, but Caden Durham has to touch the ball more. And I know Joe Sloan, it's his first year as far as being the offensive coordinator for this team. He obviously has still got some growing to do as a play caller. Yeah. And I'm going to allow him that. It is his first year. So I'm going to allow him that time to be able to develop as a play caller. But, it should be obvious. You got to be able to run the ball more. How can you do that? Run outside the tackles with Caden Durham. Yep. Run outside the tackles with Caden Durham. Also, I feel I thought about this, Reagan, today. Where has the reverses and all the quick stuff to Xavier Thomas gone? Like, we had some success with catering to Xavier Thomas' skill and feeding him the ball. And I just feel like I haven't seen that a whole lot recently. You definitely 100%, without a doubt, you got to be able to get better at third downs. Like, throwing it behind the line of scrimmage is not going to do a whole lot of good for you. You got to throw it past the sticks. You absolutely have to throw it past. It almost feels like you're giving up. Like, we're going to throw behind the sticks and hope that we can get closer, that maybe we can go down and fourth down. Like, throw it past the sticks. You have freaking Mason Taylor. You have Kyron Lacey. You have Aaron Anderson. Like, all three of those guys, you should be able to scheme enough to be able to get, have a play that goes past the sticks, that, with a pass that goes past the sticks with all three of those guys. CJ Daniels, as he's getting healthy, like,
yeah,
it's been extremely frustrating, Reagan, to see some of the play calling. But as I said, I'm going to allow Joe Sloan the benefit of the doubt because it is his first year as LSU's offensive coordinator, and he's still developing as a play caller. So I think LSU's offense should be able to move the football very well against this Florida defense. How well will they be able to move the football when it comes to getting into the red zone? LSU has to figure that out. Absolutely. And obviously, another big thing is Garrett Nussmeier has to limit the turnovers. If LSU can establish the run and they can have some success in the run game, I think it'll take a huge burden off Garrett's shoulders because he won't have to feel like he is having to, create something or force something because you've been one-dimensional. So either way, I just feel like LSU. This has to be a get-right game for LSU, especially if you have this glimmer of hope that you could potentially make the SEC championship. This absolutely has to be a get-right game for LSU, and the defense has to perform. I'm just hoping it's if you have a similar performance like you did the last 2 weeks, there's going to be a lot of questions to be asked about this coaching staff and what they're doing. I believe in this coaching staff. I do. I think LSU has the coaches to be able to give LSU success. And yes, like I mentioned earlier, maybe it is a large part due to the personnel issues in the back end, specifically at safety. But LSU has to take this game, and I'm hoping that they can come out on fire, that they can that it can be similar to an Arkansas game, right? Maybe it's a little close there in the first half, and then LSU just puts it away and runs away with it there in the second half. LSU can definitely have the players to beat this Florida team handily. Like they have to beat this Florida team handily.
You have a more talented roster.
And with Florida struggling with the injuries, I mean, Montreal Johnson is the game time decision. They're starting Mike Linebacker is out for the game. Obviously, DJ Lagway is hobbled. They've had to rotate guys in and out at defensive back there at the corner spot because they've had injuries. So LSU is in a good position to have a get right game with all the difficulties that Florida is facing. So the question is, will they do it?
Yeah. And on top of that, you've got to go on the road. Now, I'll be honest, I don't think the Swamp is what it used to be anymore. I don't think the Swamp is what it once was. I think they've gone through just so many years of and coaches and blah. It's not the Swamp of old that was so intimidating. But regardless, it's hard to go on the road in the SEC and win games. So, but with that being said, like you said, Zach, I think your roster is more talented. I think you based on the programs, I think you're more of on the upscale than Florida is. I mean, you're literally thinking that Billy Napier is going to lose his job by the end of the year. Now, they have announced that they're going to retain him, which honestly I think is smart. I thought they were going to fire him, but with DJ Lagway being there, I think it's smart. I think if you fire Billy Napier, you lose DJ Lagway. So
that's a good point.
That's the nature of college football right now. If Billy Napier's fired, he's in the portal, and probably the hottest name in the portal. But you're right. It's got to be a prove it game. It's got to be a game where you say, okay, we're gonna be who we were. I mean, Zach, this team went and knocked off the top 10 Ole Miss that was supposed to be the Ole Miss team of destiny in Baton Rouge in a
and who has looked really good here recently.
Emotional, and who has, again, looked really good, knocked off Georgia handily on Saturday. And then you turn around and you're in a classic, in the epitome of a trap game, and you took care of Arkansas on the road, handled them, winning that game going away. And you felt like this was all headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then the second half of the Texas A&M game, Marcel Reed enters in, and it totally has gone off the rails, it feels like, since then. I think it's just kind of compiled on top of each other, and so we're like, that's all we're seeing right now is just the garbage that has happened. But there's been a lot of good in this season, and I think we can see a lot more good if we can get back right. And this game, I think, is one that you can build your confidence back again. You've got a questionable quarterback. He is announced to and expected to start, but literally, as we said, carted off 2 weeks ago, and coach was in question, and all of these different things. The roster really isn't that talented. Injuries have kind of piled up. This is a game you need to go take care of business. The defense, in terms of SEC conference opponents, it's the worst one you faced. They're in the 90s in both passing and rushing defense. Go handle your business in Gainesville, and then come home and take care of business the last 2 weeks in your home, and put yourself in a position to make the SEC championship. Don't hurt yourself even more and completely take yourself out of it. You still have the opportunity. Take hold of the opportunity.
Yeah.
If you would have won the dang A&M game, we'd be in the driver's seat of this thing.
Yeah.
And I think the complexion of the Alabama game, if you win that A&M game, is completely different. I really do. But you are where you are right now. Statistically, mathematically, you're in it. So you got to go prove it this weekend.
For sure.
I think this is going to be your toughest test down the rest of the way. Vandy's not going to be a slouch. But I think this is going to be your toughest test on the road in Gainesville, coming off a horrible loss. How will you respond? It's going to be a big one. Zach, I think we need to hit a quick break. We'll come back. We'll hit some comments. We'll give a quick preview on the men's hoop game tonight. It's a big one. Looking forward to it. We'll talk about it right after this.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at OneNationDoty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
Right back at it here in the Tigers Avenue show. We got a couple comments.
Ryan said the game was a pure disappointment. The same exact things are happening over and over again. It's a pattern, and the discerning one, this can't be fixed until the off season. I think personnel wise, yeah, a lot of that can't be fixed until the off season. Obviously, can you scheme up some things to help your personnel? Yes. It's just a matter of Blake Baker and Brian Kelly and all that defensive staff trying to figure out what is best for this defensive unit to help them out. Tyler Chalmers said, "What's up, guys? I'm working late. I'm working tonight, so I'm late. All good, Tyler. We started a little bit early anyways, so glad you're here." Ryan also said, "After Matt Canada, I all but swore off jet sweeps. I'll welcome a few now." He said, "I have a little confidence in this group of players. I feel some have checked out."
Look, I don't want I feel you on that, Ryan. And I don't know if they've checked out, but I certainly feel you on the first part. There's been a couple guys, and I don't want to name them because I'm not trying to call out any players, but I mean, I'm sure you'll know who I'm speaking of. But there's just some like fifth-year guys where it's like, how do you not have it at this point? Like, how in the world is these type of things still happening? So I certainly feel that, right? And I think Zeke, you don't need another one. You have one sitting right here, buddy. I feel the sentiment that where I'm kind of like, I'm ready for some of these talented young guys that we have to take a step forward. But it feels like it's a bit late in the season to try and just throw them out there as the guys.
Yeah.
Now, can you give them a little bit more run? Maybe so. But you have 3 regular season games left. Like, it's not time to be tinkering with the roster right now and the depth chart. I think you need to roll what you're rolling with, and next year say, these are we're rolling with these young guys. We got to get them ready. But anyways, all right, Zach. Couple more minutes here. Men's hoops, Zach. I'm excited for this one because obviously the beginning of basketball season, you typically see LSU versus UL Monroe, LSU versus Alabama State, right?
Yeah.
You want to know where this team really measures, and this is a measuring stick game.
It really is, yeah.
It's a measuring stick game. It is not a game that if you lose, you say, well, they're just going to suck again. They're just going to be horrible again. It's not one of those games. It's the third game of the season. You're still figuring out your rotation. You're still figuring out what's working for you. And so that's what this game is for, and I'm really excited. On the road against Kansas State, a Power 5 or Power 6 in basketball opponent. It's going to be fun to watch, Zach. You know, these guys have the first game, they really took care of business. They looked really good. Second game, they faced some adversity against Alabama State on Sunday, really battled in that game. We're down for a good while. Fought back last 10 minutes of the game, really took care of business. Cam Carter, Jordan Sears kind of
both turned it on.
Turned it up. I think this team, shooting-wise, is better than what they have been. And even Matt McMahon has said that. I think they're going to improve as they kind of get used to the flow of the season, shooting-wise. But this is going to be a really good game to say, okay, you know, beginning of the season, where is this team at? Obviously, they can grow and they can build, but I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out tonight, especially with it being on the road.
Yeah, for sure. I've been really impressed with LSU's backcourt. Jordan Sears, Cam Carter, they've looked really good. Obviously, there's a little bit of irony here in this game with Cam Carter, previously being with Kansas State. You know, we all know about him coming to LSU last year and putting 21 on us. And then first game as a Tiger, what does he do? He scores 21 points. He's averaging 21 points right now, which is pretty crazy. So, maybe he'll go to Kansas State tonight and maybe he'll score 21 on them. I don't know. But I've been really impressed with both those guys. When you needed a spark against Alabama State on Sunday, it was those two guys turning it on. So I obviously thought Jalen Reed had a really good first game outing. He wasn't as impressive in the second game. Not saying he isn't impressive, but he wasn't. The numbers weren't there.
Yeah.
The stats weren't there in the second game. But I expect him to probably have a big game. I really like what I've seen out of Jai Bailey. He's got a really, really good motor.
He's been surprising. He has surprised me. He's kind of been the surprise for me this season. He's
played hard. And you got a lot of other really good, talented young guys that add really good depth to this team. So the depth's there, Reagan. The talent is I feel like the talent is pretty much there. I'm not saying like this team is extremely talented, it's elite,
No,
but like,
yeah,
but like the talent has definitely been raised from the last 2 years, and so
it is again is his most talented roster.
it's his most talented roster. Yep. So you hate not having Tyrell Ward. I hate not having Tyrell Ward. I was really looking forward to watching him
really
play.
there.
I just hate it for him, but I don't know if LSU will win tonight. It's going to be difficult. You're on the road, big first test early in the season. You've got to go on the road, and this is a team that's still gelling. This is a team that's still finding out what they've got in everybody. They're still finding out who's going to be R5. Like I mean, you have a pretty good idea right now, but I think as the season goes along, that could change. You could see some other guys emerge, and so I think it's a tough ask for this team to go all the way to K-State and win this game. They are about a 9-point underdog in this game, so I don't know if LSU will win tonight, but I definitely think it'll be competitive, and who knows? LSU may surprise me. They may pull this one off, but I think it's going to be a difficult game for LSU to win here. But I'm not going to sit here and say that the sky is falling if they lose, or this team's not going to do anything in the SEC. Like this is just a really tough test here at the early point of the season.
Yeah, especially on the road, midweek, Thursday night. It is, and that's why it's a measuring stick game. It's a measuring stick game. And you made a great point. Last year, you weren't very competitive against Kansas State. Like, if tonight you're competitive, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
I will be pleased if they're competitive tonight, even if they lose. I want them to show some grit, some resolve, go out there, play a hard game. But, Zach, like you pointed out Jalen Reed, look, this team needs Jalen Reed. Like, your big men are very – well, I mean, you have Derek Fountain, but, like, your big men mostly are young. Jalen Reed is your guy, right? He's your best NBA prospect on this team right now. It's Jalen Reed. He needs to be a huge focal point offensively. 6 points against Alabama State, that can't – like, that's not okay. That's not okay. He needs to be a double-digit guy looking to get like 10 to 12 points against Kansas State. And then against a team like Alabama State, he needs to be like 15 to 18 points.
Yeah.
6 points against Alabama State just wasn't okay.
No.
That's not okay. We need him to be the 3-year veteran that he can be. And he has at times taken over games and dominated games, super talented. We need him to be that guy this year. He is your starting five, your starter at the 5. I really want him to kind of arise as the leader of this team. I think Cam Carter certainly is a leader. He's got that veteran, experience. But I think shooting-wise, we're good. But we need Jalen to be really good in the paint to pair with the shooting on the outside. If you do that, it can be really dangerous. Whereas Sunday, it's like you couldn't get anything going on the inside, so you had to rely on the shooting outside. It wasn't great at the very beginning, so you were just kind of staying in it a little bit and hanging around. And then finally it caught fire when you needed to, right? Cam Carter, Jordan Sears got it when you had to have it. It doesn't need to be that way. We need to be playing through Jalen Reed and Cam Carter, both of them. But, Zach, look, Jai Bailey, Matt McMahon trusts him. He played more minutes than anybody on Sunday. Played 36 minutes. So that's why – that was the reason I said he's been the biggest surprise to me. I mean, number one, because we fully expected Tyrell Ward to be on this team. And I think we all fully expected him to be a starter and play a major role in this team. It's heartbreaking. We don't know what's going on with him. Don't know what has happened or transpired. We wish the best for him, but Jai Bailey seems to be the guy who's going to take his place, and it seems like Matt McMahon really trusts him.
Well, I mean, he's scored double digits. He's gotten into the double figures the first 2 games. So definitely been impressive, and
Absolutely.
That's kind of where Tyra Ward was kind of hit or miss. He'd have a good game, then he wouldn't really be there. He might hit a big shot every now and then, but if Jai Bailey can consistently give us 12 to 16 points, that's huge.
That's huge. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Looking forward to it. Game's about to start in about 5 minutes. Looking forward to watching the Tigers take on the Kansas State Wildcats. Hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. Hopefully, the LSU Tigers can go to Gainesville, take care of business, and keep themselves in a playoff SEC championship contention. Hopes are still alive, folks. Don't tap out on them yet. We are not technically eliminated. So pull for the Tigers this weekend to get right. Pull for Alabama's opponents to lose. Pull for our opponents to win. That's what we need. All right, guys. We'll be in here next time in the Tigers Avenue to discuss all that happens. We appreciate y'all being in here. If I saw here, take us out. Peace.